Hello guys, this is Paul McWhorter with TopTechBoy.com, and we're here today with episode number 70 in our incredible new tutorial series where you're learning how to think like an engineer using the Arduino Uno R4 Wi-Fi. What I will need you to do is pour yourself a nice tall glass of ice cold coffee. That would be straight up black coffee poured over ice. No sugar, no sweeteners, none needed. And as you're pouring your coffee, as always, I want to give a shout out to our friends over at Sunfounder. Sunfounder is actually sponsoring this most excellent series of video lessons. And in this class, we will be using the Sunfounder Elite Explorer Kit. Now, hopefully most of you guys already have your gear, but if you don't, take a look down in the description. There is a link over to Amazon, and you can hop on over there and pick your kit up. And believe me, your life and my life are going to be a whole lot simpler if we are working on identical hardware. But enough of this shameless self-promotion. Let's jump in and talk about what I am going to teach you today. And what I'm going to do is I am going to show you how you can remotely control your Arduino using a graphical user interface over on your desktop PC. Now, we've kind of got you already set up for this because in the last few lessons, I taught you how to set up a client-server relationship between your desktop PC running Python and your Arduino over Wi-Fi. And what that allows is that allows you to remotely deploy your Arduino project while controlling it and getting data from it over on your desktop. Now, in the last few weeks, we demonstrated that, but it was by answering questions or text input from the keyboard. Well, what you would really like is you would like to be able to interact with your Arduino through a really cool graphical interface and not just by giving textual commands. And that's what I'm going to kind of introduce you to today. And the program we're going to be using under Python is called PyQT5, and that will allow us to build these graphical interfaces. And so let me get out of your way and let's just jump right in. First thing that you're going to need to do is you are going to need to install the PyQT5 library. So go ahead and fire up Thonny and and then come under Tools and select Manage Packages. And what we're going to want to install is PyQT5 like that. So search on that. Let's hope it finds something. There it is. PyQT5, so you're going to select that, and then you are going to wait a second, and hopefully it will call up here. There it is, and now we're going to say install. All right, it will take a second to go collect everything and get that installed. Okay, that looks very good. Looks like it has installed. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to just take a second and I'm going to show you the direction that we're going with this. So I'm going to show you a graphical user interface that I developed under PyQT5, show you what the features are, and then we're going to be learning how to program those features and install those features into our project over the next few weeks. But let me just show you kind of where we're going here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to fire up from Python one of these graphical user interfaces. And this one doesn't really talk to the Arduino yet, but I'm just showing you that you interact with an element on the graphic user interface and something happens. So if I come here and push this button where it says push me, it changes the label and it says push button clicked. This is a different type of button, a toggle button. So I click it and it says toggle on. I click it again, toggle off. I can also input data with slider bars. You see, I can slide this slider bar, something happens. It starts mixing colors down here on this large dot. I can mix in some green. You see, I can mix values. I can mix colors using these slider bars. I can also have like a radio button type of thing, a checkbox. It says feature enabled. I uncheck that. Checkbox disabled. Click it again, check box enable. I can select option 1, I can select option 2, select option 1, select option 2, or I can input data. So I could say 255 and say submit. You submitted 255. I can come down here and I can have a drop down menu, choice 1, choice 2, choice 3, combo choice 3 selected, or here I can set values with these little up arrows and down arrows. So in this case, most of what is happening is when I do something, it changes the label. What we're really going to do is when you click something, it's going to make something happen on the Arduino. So that, my friend, is where we are going in this class for the next few lessons. Okay, but what we're going to want to do first of all is, before I jump in and start programming, I really want you to kind of understand the framework for this PyQT5 library, because it's really kind of like an onion with these different levels, and you want to kind of understand those levels, those layers of the hierarchy, and then when we're programming, it's going to make a whole lot more sense. So at the very top level, you have something called Q application, Q application, okay? And this is just your app, okay? You have to activate the app. So the first thing you got to do is you've got to create an object, a Q application object. That's the first thing. Now, if you're going to have a graphical user interface, you are going to need a window. So that command is going to be Q main window, okay? Because you have to have a window to put your cool stuff in. And so what we're going to do there is we're just going to come up here and we're going to get a better tool. We're going to get a better tool, and then what we're going to do is we are just going to create this big old window, okay? So what is this? This is the window. And this will just be a window that's on your PC, and we'll be able to specify where it is, how big it is, all that sort of stuff. You know, you can move it around like any other old window. But now you have to, inside that window, you have to have a container to put your widgets in. And what that container is, that is going to be created with the command Q widget. And this creates your container. Okay, so we can come in here again, and then we can see that inside here, and really it's the same size, but I'm drawing it slightly smaller. What is that? That is my container to put my widgets in. All right, now what you could imagine is that you've got to tell it, when you put those widgets in there, do you want them to go from left to right, or do you want them to go top to bottom? How are you going to do the layout? Well, to specify the layout, what you need is we'll say a QV for vertical QV box layout. Okay, and we'll make that green. So that is going to be a QV box layout. And you guys, I hope you take notes as I'm talking here, because then it's going to make a lot more sense when I program. Okay, so this is going to be my Q, my QV box layout. Okay, and that V means vertical. Now I've got my layout box, I can begin to put my widgets in it. And since I said vertical, if I put 3 buttons, it would be button 1, button 2, button 3, like that. Okay, if I'd put QH box layout, then my widgets, my buttons would go in left to right, like that. But now you can imagine, if you looked at my earlier example, you might want horizontal buttons, and then you might want kind of a more complicated, you might want a little bit more complicated layout. So you can put a layout box in a layout box. So let's put another layout box. Okay, so then let's say this one might be Q horizontal box layout like that. Okay, and so with something like this, then what you can do is I can put a layout box inside my layout box, and it might be something like this. Let's see if we can get this here. Like that. Okay, that's my Q horizontal layout box. Okay, I'll put this like this. Let's see here. It's like this. Let me try to get these colors better. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to say this will be a Q horizontal box layout. Okay, and then what I can have there is I can have a horizontal. Right. Now, what would happen if I put widgets inside of this box? They're going to go like left to right because this is a horizontal box. But now if I put some things down below, they're going to stack vertically. Okay. So what I find is one level of nesting works really well. So I have a layout box that's horizontal inside of a layout box that's vertical, which is inside of my container, which is inside of my window. So I have window, then I've got my container, then I've got my vertical layout box, and inside of my vertical layout box, I put multiple horizontal layout boxes, but I don't put a layout box and a layout box and a layout box. Only one level of nesting on the layout boxes. So hopefully you made some notes there, and hopefully you can kind of follow along now as we program. If you look at those notes, hopefully it will help you. Hopefully it will help you kind of understand how this works. So let's jump in and let's see if we can do this. First of all, we need to import those libraries. So we're going to say from PyQT5.qt widgets. I'm going to import everything. All right. And the program is pretty consistent using this bumpy font or this camel case where like the first letter of words are capitalized, and you get pretty used to it. We're also going to from PyQT5.qt core, we're going to import everything. And so the core is kind of the core functionality of the PyQT5. And then the widgets are all the different widgets that you can put in. And then we are going to need to import just the system into Python, because there's some things to fire it up that it needs to use some system methods. Okay. Now, what was the thing at the very, very highest level? The highest level of our hierarchy was what? We have to create a PyQt object, and I'm going to call my object just app. It's going to be my app, and this is going to be Q. This is going to be Q application, and then we're not going to send it any parameters, so we're going to send it an empty list like that. So we're not sending it anything, but we do have to put this command in there to get it to fire up. We've got our application. What is the next level of the hierarchy? We need to create a window. So I'm going to say window is equal to the method Q main window, like that. So we're going to create a window, and now we're going to give the window a title. So I'm going to say window.set window title, and I'm going to say welcome to GUI world. Welcome to the world of GUIs, graphical user interfaces. Now I'm going to set the dimensions and position. So I'm going to say set geometry, and I'm going to want this window to be 100 pixels over in X and 100 pixels down in Y. So it's not going to be in the upper left corner. It's going to come over 100 pixels and go down 100 pixels. That is your initial position. And then I'm going to want it to be 500 pixels tall and 300 pixels wide, like that. Okay, now I think I'm going to come down and kind of do the last part of the program, and then I think we'll be able to test it along the way. And so I'm going to say, after you create the window, then you're going to do a window.show. Okay, and then you exit the program with a sys.exit. That's why we had to import sys, and we're going to do app, which was the PyQt app that we created, .exec underscore open close, like that, and that should clean things up. Now I see that I did a typo there. Doesn't count if you catch it before you run it. So let's see if anything happens if we run this. Let's see if we're importing the libraries and so forth like we would expect. But let's just see what we get here. We're going to run that. Okay, no module found AT core, and where is that in line 2? And I had a typo already. Hopefully you guys saw that. That one counts. That one's on me. Q application. I was saying about how intuitive this was. That's uppercase A, like that. Now let's try it. Okay, and now what do we have? We have this. We have this created, and this is 500 pixels wide, and it's 300 pixels tall. Okay, and it comes onto the screen at the position 100, 100. So that looks pretty good. Now, it doesn't really do anything at this point. But we are getting some live action happening. Okay, so let's stop the program, and now let's move on. Now, everything between here and here is to make your window do something. So what did we have? We had the app. We've done that. The next layer of the onion was the window. We did that. And you can have more than one main window. You can create a second window that you call it something else. And so you can have more than one window here. But for simplicity, we're going to start with one. So we have the application, we have the window. What do we need now? We need a widget container. And how do we do that? What was that command on your list? The Q widget, like that. And then open close. Now we got to give that some parameters. Now what we got to tell it is, right, we got to tell it that this is our main central widget. So in our window, so we created the widget container. Where does it go? Well, it's going to go in window. The window is going to have set central widget. And what is it? Widget container. Now you see why I wanted you to have that picture? Okay, I wanted you to have that picture. We create a window, then we create our main widget container, and now I am putting that widget container in the window. And this will get easier as we start building it. And also, I don't start from scratch every time. I kind of have a core program that works, and then I go in and I edit that. But this first time through, you've got to kind of very deliberately create your app, create your window, create your widget container, your Q widget, and then put the widget container as the main central widget of the window. Now what do we need to do? We need to create that box. Remember how we have that horizontal or we have that vertical layout box? So I'm going to say my main layout, I call it what I want it, main layout, and that is going to be the Q, and then V for vertical box layout. And then what do we connect that to? The widget container. All right, so I've got a window. Inside the window, I have a widget container, and then that widget container inside of it is going to be my main layout, and that's going to be a vertical layout. So you see we're just kind of layering this onion together here. All right, does that look good? Now, what I want to show you is, now that I have that main layout, things are going to lay in that main layout. How? Vertically, because I put a V here. So now what I can do is I can build my first widget to go in the layout box, which is in the widget container, which is in the window. So let's do that. I'm going to say label. I'm going to create a label, and you can call that whatever you want. That's a variable that I call label. And now this is going to be my first widget. My Q label is going to be a widget. And what am I going to put the label to be? Welcome to PyQT5. And I think that deserves an exclamation point. All right, like that. Now, what do I do with that? I need to put in main layout. I'm going to what? Add the widget. And which widget am I going to say? The label. All right, so you see I created this widget called label. Now I've got to say, where am I going to put it? I'm going to take label and I'm going to add that widget to my main layout. Now let's see if anything happens here if we run this. Okay, now look at this. Now this isn't, let me try that again. I tried to move it. It pops it up. I have a lot of screens here, and it pops it up on a different screen, but it comes over here, and then you can see there is my label. Welcome to PyQT5. What do we not like about that? It's hard to read. So let's come in and let's set some parameters here. First of all, the label, I'm going to tell it that I want to set the alignment, and then what do I want to do? Qt.align center, like that. Now it's going to put it in the middle, hopefully. And you could imagine there would be a set alignment label. I'm sorry, this is label.set alignment. And in fact, I just really messed this up. Label has already been created. So I take that label and I set the alignment to Qt.align center. You could imagine that it'd be Qt align left, Qt align right. Those things would go along with it. That should put it in the center. And then I'm going to say label.set fixed height, and I'm going to make it about 50 pixels high. All right, now I want to set some styles on this, so I'm also going to come in and say label.set style sheet. And if you guys know CSS, then these things are going to make sense. Or like I say, just keep your core program, and then you can come in and just sort of see how to edit it. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to say set the font size, and then a colon, what's font size? 24 pixels. What else do I want to set? I want color, colon, blue, like that. Okay, color, colon, blue. And then, so you see you have a parameter, colon, a value. And then before the next parameter, you put a semicolon, and then you put the parameter, colon, the value. All right, then I'm also going to put padding, and the padding I'm going to put is about 10 px, like that. Then you have to put a trailing semicolon, even though you're not going to put another parameter. You got to close that string, and then you got to close that parenthesis. So let's see what happens here. We're going to run it, and look at this. I've got welcome to PyQT5, all right? And we put it in the center, and that's good, it's in the center. I wonder if we could do a top. Let's just see if we could do a top. I don't know. Let's see if we could do a label.set alignment, and let's go Qt.align align top. I really shouldn't do these things on the fly. Sometimes I just wonder if I can guess and get something. Okay, that kind of messed it up, and so that was not a smart thing to do. So what it's going to do is it's going to kind of put it, it's going to try to fill things up, and if it doesn't, it's going to just put it in the middle. And so if we come here, you see that I have a much bigger window than what I filled up. And so it just sort of put it up and down in the center. But what we can do is sort of push things up to the top. If we come down here and we just sort of say fill in the filler at the bottom. And that would be, okay, before we do the window show, remember our main layout was main layout. So I'm going to say main layout, and I'm going to say add a stretch. So it's going to put things at the top, and it's going to go boom, 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 and then it's going to put the white space at the bottom because I added stretch at the bottom. Now this should kind of get things looking a lot better. And indeed it is. So I've got welcome to PyQT5. That's my label. And then all of this is just filled in with that stretch. So it pushes things to the top of my box and into the top of my layout like that. Okay, so that looks really good. So I've got kind of this thing I'm building up. So now what do you know how to do? You know how to build a label. And so that is just really good. You know how to build a label. And so now what are we going to want to do next? Okay, what are we going to want to do next? I am going to want to put 3 push buttons, but I want those push buttons horizontally. So if those push buttons are going to go horizontally, what do I need? I need another layout box, a horizontal layout box that I will put inside the main layout box. So how am I going to do that? I'm going to say I'm going to have a push button layout, and that's going to be equal to what? QH box layout, like that. So now I've got a horizontal layout box. Where does it go? Well, I have my main layout. I'm going to add a layout inside of it. And what is it going to be? My push button layout that I just created. So now this should be a horizontal layout box called push button layout that goes inside my main vertical layout box. Okay, so I have that. Now what I want to do is I want to put a push button inside that horizontal layout box. So how do I do that? I'm going to say push button red. So this is going to be the object, push button red. This is going to be the button. How do I create it? It is equal to Q push button. And now I've got to say what text do I want on there? I want the text blink red, like that. Okay, so I've created it. Now where am I going to put it? I'm going to set the style of it. I'm going to go ahead and set my style sheet for this one. So I'm going to say my push button red dot set style sheet, like that. And what things am I going to do? Well, I'm going to set the background dash color. What do we put? We put the colon and then the parameter red. Now I put my separator for my next thing, which is going to be the color, which will be the color of the text. I'm going to want to be white, like that. Okay, does that make sense? And then this time, what I am going to want is, I'm going to want to get out of your way before you start yelling at me. All right, so what do I put before the next parameter? I put a semicolon, and then I'm going to say the font size, colon, I want it to be about 18, all right? And then I want to put some padding in there, padding, colon, 10, and then we have that awkward trailing, semicolon, close the quote, close that. Now I've set the style sheet, right? I've set the style sheet for that button. I need to give the button a size. So push button red dot set fixed size. I'm going to make it 150 wide and I'm going to make it 50 tall, like that. All right. Does that look good? Okay. Now, what am I going to do next? I am going to say push button red dot. What do you do when you click it? When it's dot clicked, you connect to the function push button red clicked, like that. Okay, so what happens when I click push button red? When I click push button red, it is going to connect me to this function. What is the problem? I haven't defined that function. And before you call a function in Python, you have to define it. So we'll come right here and we'll define it. Push button red clicked. What do I want to do? Well, I want to change that top label that I called label. I want to set the text to what? Blink red, like that. Okay, now this would be, in the case of really controlling the Arduino, instead of just changing a label, here would be where you would send a command to the Arduino. But we don't want to get in that complication yet. I just want to show you when you click push button red, I want something to happen. What is it going to do? It is going to change that label to blink red. And now I'm going to set the style sheet again. So I'm going to change the style sheet, label dot set style sheet. And then I'm going to get all of this. I think I can just copy this because it's going to be mainly the same. I'm going to copy that and paste it. All right. But this time, what I am going to do is I'm going to make the font. Let's make it 24 in both places. I shouldn't change that. Let's make the font 24 in both places. So that hasn't changed. That didn't change anything. The padding is still 10. The color is this time what I'm going to do is I'm going to make the color of the text red, and I am going to make the background color. I'm not even going to set a background color this time. So I'm just basically what I am doing in this case is I'm just changing the text color to red. And I really messed that up. I edited the wrong one. And so let's get all of this. Close that, close that. Okay, so pause and look. This is what I am going to change to. I need to go back and put this where it came from. Okay, I'm going to give you a second to catch up with me. All right. So what we have is we initially set the style sheet to all of this. Okay. And now when we change the style sheet, all I'm going to do is I am going to change just the color to red, like that. Font is still going to be 24 and the padding is still going to be 10, like that. Okay, that's what I do when I click. All right. So whatever the text was, it's going to change it to blink red, and then it's going to make the text red, like that. So now that's what I do when I click it, but now I've got to remember, I've got to tell it I've created this push button red, but I have to tell it where to put it. So push button layout, that's that inner layout box. I'm going to add a widget. And which widget am I going to add? Push button red, like that. Okay, whew, let's see what happens. Sorry I goofed up there a little bit on the style sheet, so let's see what happens. Okay, line 24 it doesn't like. I've got in line 24, I've got push button red is equal to push Q, push button blink. That sure looks right. Didn't close the string. All right, now let's try it. Hopefully you guys saw that. So let's see if we get something. Define push button clicked, and we need an open close in there because it is a function. So now let's try it. Okay, now here is our first action. This is the horizontal layout box for the push button, blink red, and what does it say? It says blink red. Now that came out very, very small, and so I think I need to work on this a little bit. Font size is going to be 24. I don't know if I need to put that first, so let me cut that. So font size is going to become 24 what px, and up here I've got to have px too for pixels. Okay, so now I think this is going to work. And what do we have? We have this, the blink red button, blink red. Okay, so you see I clicked the button I created and something happened. What did it do? It changed the label. When we really do this, it's going to do something over on the Python project, okay, over on the Arduino project, okay? Now that was pretty sweet, wasn't it? Well, what do I want? I want to have across there, I want to have 3 different buttons, a push button red, a push button green, a push button blue. Now this is where the wonderful stuff happens. I'm going to copy this, and now I want a green button. So I copied all of this push button. Now that I've got that made, what am I going to do? I am going to have a push button green, and then that is going to be blink, what? Blink green. And then here, my color is going to be green. And then down here, my color is going to be green again. Okay, like that. So that should be good. And now we want one more. And what's that one more going to be? We are going to want to make a push button blue. And that is going to be blink blue, and then this is going to be color blue, and then this is going to be color blue, and then this is going to be blink blue, like that. Okay, so this is going to be green. This one should be blink green. When you copy and paste, you got to make sure that you are doing all of these things. Now also I forgot that push button green clicked, push button green, and then push button green clicked, and then push button green. I should have been more methodical in doing my edits, but basically every red I turned to green, and hopefully I didn't miss any. Okay, and now let's see what happens if we run it. Okay, that did not work out very well, so I've got an error in there somewhere. And so I've got push button green dot clicked dot connect push button green clicked, and push button layout add widget push button green. And what did I not do well here? I've got an error in here somewhere. You guys tell me where I messed up. Up here. So I said blink green, push button green, and then push button green. I did a terrible job in editing that, didn't I? Now let's see what happens. Okay, so I've done what? I created blink green and then blink red, I messed up. And that's because I haven't edited all this. So push button blue, Q push button blue, and then same thing here. I need to do blue and push button blue. Okay, and then label set style sheet, and then this was a what? This was a blue, and then this was a blue. Okay, and then this is a blue. Okay, so I add push button blue to widget to layout. All right, so now let's see what happens if we do this. Push button blue is not defined because I didn't change that one. Hopefully you see what I'm doing. You get the first one to work, and then you change the red to green, and then you change the red to blue. All right, so now let's see. Okay, now look at this. I get the welcome to PyQT5. I click blink red. It says blink red, blink green, blink blue, blink blue. Okay, now here we're just changing the label. But what could we do? We could actually go over, and when I click blink red, over here, where is it? Over here on the Arduino project, over here, what I could make is I could make the LED blink red. Okay, but you would have to go in and you would have to put in that client server stuff that you learned how to do last week. Okay, so I've got those 3 buttons done. Now what I want is, I've shown you how to just do, okay, you click and something happens. You click the button, it runs the function. You click the button, it runs the function. You click the button, it runs the function. But what if you wanted a different style of button? What if you wanted a toggle button? You wanted a toggle button, okay? And so this time, what we are going to do is we are going to come up here, and if I am going to do that, so I've got the main layout, then I've got my horizontal button layout. Now I need another layout box, not inside the second one, but beneath the second one. And I'm going to call that toggle button layout. And that is going to be another QH box layout. Okay, that's going to be another horizontal layout. I've got the first horizontal layout, which was done up here somewhere. You see this first one. Now I'm going to have a second horizontal layout box. And that second horizontal layout box is going to be called the toggle button box. Now, where does that go? Well, it goes in the main layout. Right, that highest level one. I'm going to add this layout, and then what am I going to add? The toggle button layout, like that. Okay, now I've got a box to put these 3 buttons in. But these 3 buttons I want to be toggle buttons. So because they're going to be toggle, I'm going to name them that toggle button red. And what is that going to be? It's going to be a just like before, Q push button. And then what am I going to label it? It's going to be labeled toggle red, like that. Okay. Now, this is where I make it a toggle. You see, that's the same thing. It's a Q push button, but now I need to make it a toggle switch. And I do that by saying toggle button red dot set checkable, and that is going to be set to true. So this is going to be, it's going to keep track of, if I check it, it's going to stay checked, and then if I click it again, it's going to uncheck. So it's going to go like true, false as I click on it, because I set it as set checkable. Now I need to set the style sheet for this one, so I'm going to say toggle button red like before, and I'm going to say set style sheet, Okay, and I think this is the same as this one was, and so we're going to live dangerously, and I'm going to get this style sheet from up here, this long one. Okay, and then I'm going to do the same thing here. All right, so I set that same style sheet for that. Now I got to give it a size, so I'm going to say toggle button red, and I am going to, and that is not in the right spot, that should be down here. So now I'm going to toggle button red dot set fixed size, and again it's going to be 150 by 50 like that. Okay, so I'm setting this thing up. Now I've got to come down here, and then what do? Well, my toggle button red, it is going to toggled dot connect. Okay, because it is a toggle button, instead of saying toggle button red dot connect like we did in the upper ones, here we've got to say it's going to toggle when you connect it. Okay, and then I've got to give it a variable, so I'm just going to say toggle red like that. Now I'm going to say toggle red like that. So when you click on it, what you're going to do is you're going to toggle the value of it, and you're going to connect to toggle red. So now I'm going to need to define, I'm going to make that lowercase t, I'm going to define toggle red, and now I need to pass it the checked value, right? Because we said that we're going to keep track of it. So we're going to pass the checked value. And now I'm going to say if checked, that means if checked is true, what am I going to do? Label dot set text to red toggle on, like that. Okay, and then I'm going to label, I really don't think I need to change that style sheet here. I don't think I need to change that style sheet here, so I'm just going to change the text only. Now I'm going to say if not checked, that means that it has not been checked. If it's not checked, then what am I going to do? I'm going to say if not checked, then I'm going to say label dot set text, and I'm going to say red toggle off. That. Okay. Now, what I did here was I said when you click it, you want to toggle the value that you pass it, and you want to connect to toggle red. And then it's going to keep track of whether it's checked. Every time you click it, it'll be check is true, check is false, check is true, check is false. Now I've got to say, where do we put this fabulous button? Toggle button layout that we just created. We're going to add the widget. And what widget are we going to add? Toggle button red that we just created, like that. Now let's see what happens if we run this thing. Does like line 51. Okay. Q layout horizontal. I didn't need to put all that stuff in there, did I? That was a big mistake. So what we're going to do here under toggle button layout, I put that in the wrong spot. Okay, so toggle button layout is just a horizontal layout. I don't know what I was thinking. And then main layout, I'm going to add the toggle button layout to it. So that looks good. So somewhere here, it was here that I needed to put that style. Okay, it's here that I need to put the style. So I need to go up and get that red style, which is all the way up here, like this. I need to get that. I put it in the wrong spot. Okay, so the style sheet is here, and I'm just setting it like I did the other red button, like that. Okay, now let's see what happens if we run it. Okay, now here we go. We have blink red, we have blink green, we have blink blue. Now let's see if our toggle works. Red toggle on, red toggle off. Now it set it to blue there, so we need to see why that text was made blue. And so let's see, red toggle on, red toggle off, and toggle button red. Okay, I guess I do need to change that style because we don't know what it was left at. And so I do need to change it back to red on the style sheet. So let's just get this one, which should be right. Okay. And we need to set it to like that, because we don't know, last time it might have been blue because I might have clicked a different one. So I need to always set that style sheet to keep it red. So now let's see what happens. Okay. So what are we going to do? Blink red, the label's red. Blink green, the label's green. Blink blue, the label's blue. Toggle red on, red toggle off. Excellent. That's exactly what we want. Even though it was a little bit painful, now what we want to do is we want to get that toggle button, that toggle button, that whole thing, all the way up to here, that whole toggle button. We're going to copy it, and then we're going to add the next one. Okay, now this one I'm going to be way more careful in editing it. So this is going to be toggle button green, and this is going to be toggle green, and then this is going to be toggle button green, and this is going to be toggle button green, and then the color is going to be green. Okay, and now this is going to be toggle button green. Okay, and then this is going to be toggle green, and then this is going to be green toggle on, green toggle on, and then we're going to set this color to green. And then this is going to be red toggle off. It's going to be green toggle off. And then it is going to be color green, like that. And then we have the toggle button green that we are going to connect to toggle green. Let's make sure, yep, toggle green we did. And then the toggle button layout, we add this now green button, which is toggle button green, like that. Okay, now we should have two buttons this time. Okay, look at that. Toggle red, toggle is on, toggle is off, toggle is on, green toggle on, toggle green, toggle red. Okay, that font there is a little bit too big, and so I think what we need to do is we need to make that a little bit smaller on these toggle buttons. And so where we had them 24, we probably need to make them 18. And no, that's okay. This is in this one where we are setting up the label. We're going to make that 18, and then we're going to come up here. That was for the button itself, the text on the button itself, and then the text on the button itself is going to be 18, like that. Okay, so now, yeah, that is going to work a little bit better because you see the toggle red and toggle green weren't fitting. Okay, so toggle red on, toggle green on, red toggle off, green toggle off, blink red, blink green, blink blue. Okay, now we need one more of those for blue. And so we're going to come down here and we're going to paste all of that again. And where we have red, this time it's going to be blue. And then this is going to be toggle blue. And then this is going to be blue. And then this is going to be blue. And then this is going to be blue. And remember, we decided 18 was a better size, so we're going to make that 18. And then this is going to be toggle button blue, and set the size, and then toggle red, toggle green, toggle blue. And then we're going to say blue toggle is on, and then it is going to be color blue. And blue toggle is off. Blue toggle is off. And then this is going to be the color blue. And then this is our toggle button blue. And then we are going to toggle blue. And then we are going to toggle button layout, add widget, toggle button blue. Okay. Now let's come in, let's run this, see what happens. Toggle button blue in line 100. Should have been uppercase B, like that. Now we're going to run it. Okay, now here is our widget. Blink red, blink green, blink blue, toggle red, toggle green, toggle blue. Ha-ha, boom. Okay, we have this thing. Now, what you see is we have push buttons and we have toggle buttons. Okay, push buttons and toggle buttons. And we have this thing all working now. All right, so I had a few mistakes along the way, but hopefully you see that it's this hierarchy. You have to start the app, you've got to create the window, you have to create the widget container, then you have to create your main layout box, and then layout boxes that go inside the main layout box, and then inside of those layout boxes you can put your individual widgets. Okay, and so what I want you to do is you've really got to kind of go in here and get comfortable. You saw me do it and you were just furiously trying to copy me, but what you need to do now is to kind of understand how these layers of this onion work. Okay, you need to understand how the layers of the onion work. And then what I want you to do for your homework is what I want you to do for your homework would be something like this. Okay, so what you're going to do now is you're going to come in, and over here you are going to have your widget. You're going to have your widget here. All right, and let me see, I want you to see the widget and I want you to see the Arduino. Okay, so now I'm going to turn the Arduino on, and now I'm going to say blink red. Okay, do you see that the red blinked 5 times? Okay, you can make it do whatever you want, but you say blink red and it is blinking red. You say blink green and it is blinking green. You say blink blue and it's blinking blue. Now I just said arbitrarily, I'm going to, when I ask it to blink, I'm going to say blink 5 times, and I'm going to say blink it for 100 milliseconds on and off. Okay, so what I can do is I can say blink red, there it goes, blink green, there it goes, and then I can say blink blue, there it goes, and now I can say toggle red. And then what does it do? It turns on red. Toggle blue, it turns red off. toggle green, it turns green on, toggle green, turns it off, toggle blue, it turns on. And you see, this isn't connected to anything, right? This isn't connected to anything. So I say toggle blue, and it turns blue. Hopefully you can see that. All right, so you see now what have I done? I've shown you how to create the GUI, right? I've shown you how to create the GUI. Now what you have to do is you have to go in and connect this up to your Arduino. Now, just if you want to do the same setup as I have so that we're working together, I have red to pin 9, green to 10, and blue to 11. And just remember, what you do is in that function, rather than just simply change the title on the widget, that label on the widget, you actually go in and in that function, you send commands to Arduino to make it do useful things. So that is your homework assignment, is to take what we just developed, and to bring your Arduino to life where you're controlling it from the PyQT widget. Okay, man, I hope that wasn't too confusing, and I'm sorry that I got in a hurry and made a few mistakes along the way. But what you can do is you can now pause it, watch it again, and you can kind of get yours working just exactly perfectly. And first of all, just get it to work without being connected to the Arduino like I did today, and then go in and on those functions, those call functions for the different buttons, you have that send commands to Arduino to make the Arduino do things based on your control of the, based on your client server know-how that you got in the last few lessons. Okay, guys, I hope you're enjoying taking these classes as much as I am making them. At this point, I always give a big shout out to you guys who are helping me out on Patreon. Right now, I would not be able to make these lessons except for having the help from you Patreon, so thank you. You can also help me by giving a thumbs up to this video and leaving a comment down below. That will help with the old YouTube juice. If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. When you do, make sure you ring that bell so you'll get notification when future lessons drop. And as always, share this video with other people because the world needs more people thinking like an engineer. And fewer people sitting around watching silly cat videos. Paul McWhorter with TopTechBoy.com. I will talk to you guys later.